Is LeSean McCoy wild for this take, or is he right? There's been a lot of talk about the way Trey Lance looked in the Raider game the other day. I got a practice report from later. I'm about to head out to Santa Clara. We'll have 5 practices of data, and I'll show you how my grades compare to what you think your eyes told you, and how it compares to Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy. But I want to go through this piece by piece because I think that LeSean McCoy makes a point that I haven't heard anybody else make. Maybe other people have, but I haven't heard it. And I think it's a great point. I think LeSean McCoy makes a great point in this video that he's, he gets criticism from a bunch of different fan bases all the time for different stuff he says. But I thought he made a great point. I want to go through this piece by piece because there's also some things he says that I understand why they make people think he's talking crazy. But I think he makes some really good points here. So let's go through. Here we go. Shady McCoy the other day on
enough of them. Yeah. I don't want to hear about him. And you know what's sad? It's really not his fault because he don't belong in the NFL. It's not his fault. The problem is this.
Wow, you say he don't belong in the league.
Yeah, you just look at this. Wow. No. Especially as a starter.
All right, so that's the first thing. I think that immediately triggers people. Like, this guy's going too far. He's talking crazy, right? He says that he doesn't belong in the league. Hushmanzada, you give him the reaction like, whoa. And then LeSean actually says what he meant, which is, I don't think he's a starter, which is what he was trying to say. And right now, you'd be hard pressed to find a team that he'd start for, probably. So that it sounded crazy, and Hushmanzada made it feel crazier by his reaction. But I don't think it's what LeSean. And the other thing is, LeSean's like, his coat doesn't fit totally right. His sleeves are not buttoned. The shirt might be a little tight. And so I think, like a lot of people think, he just steps up there, doesn't really. I know the Cowboys somebody challenged, like a Cowboys reporter had him come out to practice because he said something critical last week. They're like, do you even know what you're talking about? So he went to practice. So I think there are some signals here that make you think like, oh, he's not really paying attention, or he doesn't care that much, or, he's just kind of talking off the cuff. But let's keep going.
When you watch him play, he shouldn't be in his NFL as a starting quarterback. Seriously, that's honestly. And it's not his fault because I look at the teams. When I was playing, I always would go to the front office. And it was jokingly, but I was being honest. It's like, they criticize these players all the time. He couldn't pick up the playbook. Yep. The stage is too big for him. Trey Lance, this, that, and the third. Well, you went out there and you traded the picks to go get him. So you thought he was that good. So they should take more blame. But
by the way, legit, people always talk about this. The guy should take more blame. The team should take more blame. You get a lot of blame when you lose. You are able to overcome mistakes when you win. And it's that simple. So, the Niners get plenty of criticism for that. The Niners, maybe some people think they should get more criticism. Okay, give them more criticism. They get criticized. And this is when we talk about like Brock Purdy interceptions. In practices and games, there's different consequences. There are different consequences for mistakes based on whether you win or lose. That's why we talk about the word equity all the time. Like, I remember years ago, more than 10 years ago, for those of you, if you're too young to remember it, look it up. Bill Belichick went for it on 4th and 1 from his own, I don't even know, 20-yard line with a lead because he felt if he punted to Peyton Manning was going to take the ball and score and he would lose anyway. And so he went for it, didn't get it, and, got criticized. A lot of other coaches, maybe that's the seed that gets them fired ultimately by their owner. But he had so much equity built up, he could make decisions that felt crazy then. Would even be a little crazy now, but definitely if you thought going for 4th downs, some weird spots is crazy now, it was crazier then. Dan Lanning did one at Oregon last year that felt nuts, but it was crazier then. Now, nobody here has Bill Belichick's resume. Only Bill Belichick has Bill Belichick's resume. But when people say what LeSean McCoy said, which is they need more criticism, it failed and they get criticized for it. We talked about it yesterday. The process was bad. The pick was bad. The plan was bad, right? Maybe the pick was good, but the process was bad. But the development plan, at least, even if they were right about Trey from a talent standpoint, even if the development plan was bad, but they're Super Bowl contenders since. So you can survive that, right? Criticism is there. Is it fireable? If you don't win, it's fireable. If you don't recover from your errors, it's fireable. All right, but let's keep going.
A part of that, so aside from that, when I look at Trey Lance, there's nothing he does special. like with young players that are not confident yet, they always do something really, really good, right? There's nothing he does really, really good.
Fair.
I thought he was a runner. I watched him run last year. He's not no runner. He has a strong arm. I watched him. Is his arm strong? I can't tell. So I don't really talk about Trey Lance no more. He doesn't show me enough.
I thought that was a fantastic point. And there's a lot of other things that LeSean McCoy, the way he says things, what he says, there were some other, like that make people think he's being unfair. But I thought that was a really just clear point that I don't think a lot of people have made, which is what has he shown as the consistent plus skill? And what made me think about it was thinking about Justin Fields yesterday, because John and I were talking about Justin Fields and whether or not they should have drafted him 3, and whether you believe in him and blah, blah, blah. And one thing is clear with, and I don't like the odds are, I think it's worse than 50-50 that he becomes a franchise quarterback. But the one thing you see with Fields, at least, is or multiple kind of plus skills. Like he hits you over the head with the one thing or the two things or whatever it is you think he does well. There are some basic things that he's done since his first start that just jump off of the screen to you. And that's what LeSean McCoy is talking about. He doesn't compare it here. But I think when he goes to running, the first thing you think about is when you watch Justin Fields play, there are things he does with his legs that you go, yeah, I think there's 5 other quarterbacks, maybe 3 other quarterbacks in the NFL that can do what he just did, right? You think about the run around touchdown throw he made against the 49ers. He had a touchdown, I remember, a diving pylon score against the Packers last year, where he just kind of turns the corner, and then it's him and like 2 or 3 defenders, and someone's going to win that race, and it was him. And his physicality is so apparent when you watch him. Does Trey, one thing he says here, he may have already said it or maybe I didn't get to it yet. Like, I heard he has a good arm. Does he have a good arm? When I watch Trey, I think he's got I think he's got a live arm. Like, he's got a good arm. But it doesn't always play that way. Sometimes he throws the ball hard, but it doesn't spiral. And so it doesn't have quite the same velocity. So, when you watch Fields, like that sucker is, no matter which throw he's making, he throws a tight ball. And that's something that Trey's had to work on. Okay, like this guy started at Ohio State and this guy hasn't, has played like 5 games in 4 years. Fine, they're different. But I think that's what he's talking about. And I think that's reasonable. I think that makes sense. Watch Fields, the plus skill immediately jumps off the page. With Lance, I thought the same thing. After watching his college tape, I thought, yeah, not that he is an explosive runner like Fields, but he's a comfortable runner. He's not been a comfortable runner in the NFL. And it feels like some of the athleticism that maybe you projected hasn't translated. Whereas with Fields, the athleticism absolutely has translated to the NFL. And that happens sometimes with guys, right? Where in college, they can do things athletically that you can't get away with in the NFL. So, like, I thought that was just a very clear, unemotional, correct point to this. I don't want to call it a rant, just this argument that Shady McCoy's making.
If the NFL had a G League, he should be part of that. Put him in the G League and let him grow.
And then the last part, I think people hear that and go like, oh, that's unfair. Like, I thought what Lombardi said, Michael Lombardi, that was a cheap shot, I thought. But I don't even think that last point from McCoy, I don't think he's kidding. I think he's saying like he needs more development. But to this point, if you're going to be a young player on a good team, you got to hit people over the head with whatever your plus skill is. And that hasn't happened. So I got a few people send it to me like LeSean McCoy is out of his mind, or like LeSean McCoy's being me or whatever. And so I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And I thought it was fine. I didn't think in fact, I thought he was right. Wally Lamas says Santa Cruz 49ers would be dope. By the way, if you're hanging out here on the YouTube, subscribe to this channel. Hit that like button. The more of you that subscribe while this video is live, the more other people that get to see it. And then the more the channel grows and the more views it gets. So thanks for that. And again, I'll be back this afternoon with some post-Niner topic, post-Niner practice reaction. He said he was no run last year. That was a joke. You agree? That makes you dumb. You lost a subscriber, and I will find a way for you to. Okay. Fields is bendy when he runs, unlike Trey. It's slow. Fields is explosive when he runs, which you don't have to be, by the way, to play quarterback. I think he's just asking the fundamental question. And I've said this the whole time with Trey. Once he's gotten to the NFL, I don't think he's a comfortable runner. That's okay. Doesn't have to be. If he can make up for it in other ways. Now, if you're not gonna be as efficient, let's say, offensively, if you're gonna turn down throws, right? The JT O'Sullivan video, then you have to, that's when the athleticism comes into play, where you don't see it yet, or you're maybe a little gun shy, but you can get out of the pocket because you're so athletic, and then you make something crazy happen, right? Like that's how you cover that. So Gregus, Fields couldn't operate in the system. I'm not convinced that. I'm not saying that Shanahan would have developed Fields either. Dan, the development plan was predicated on Trey having a resident level of accuracy so he could execute the fundamentals. That's where it went off the rails, and they've been trying to recover since. Yeah, maybe the accuracy, maybe the quick decision making. I'll be interested to see this week. Is he just quicker out of the box? Those turn down throws against the Raiders. Is he quicker out of the box with those, right? Like, do those throws get made immediately? And do you go, okay, there was a little rust last week, or nerves, or whatever? Lazy Television says, if Trey isn't the guy and Purdy keeps throwing multiple picks in practice, who's left to be the guy? Well, Purdy throwing multiple picks in practice is irrelevant to the quarterback competition. I will, if I was your question producer here, and I said, let's produce this question to get the best discussion, I'd say, if he keeps throwing multiple picks in games, throwing picks in practice is not losing Brock Purdy his job. I don't think it should. It hasn't lost. I saw my buddy Ryan Leaf tweeted yesterday, people should have seen me in practice. I never threw picks. That was a funny tweet. But I'll go through this afternoon, five practice. I've graded every practice throw for the last 4 practices that I've attended. And today will be the 5th. So we'll have 5 practices where I've graded every throw today. I've yet to reveal the full data. Today I will show you what it says, and we can talk about it. But his practice picks are not relevant. Now, to answer the question, if he throws picks in games at this point, I think it'll be Sam Darnold. Why do I think that? Because right now I think Sam Darnold is the number 2 quarterback on the 49ers. Rafa, he needs to stop being so timid. Yeah, I mean, that's really what stood out the other day. And I think what makes it, he's been in the offense for 3 years. Now he got hurt last year. He's been hurt. So this whole thing is not black and white when you go like, whose fault is it? Why hasn't it worked? It never is, though. Kajukin, Shady doesn't belong on TV, not because of his take, but he doesn't know how to do the job. I haven't watched Shady enough to know if he doesn't know how to do the job, but I think there is something people appreciate about somebody who's not totally buttoned down, who isn't a television person, right? In the same ways a career politician or career academic can have there's a real world kind of nature to a guy who just came out of the league and doesn't really act like he wants to be like, he doesn't care, which there's something appealing about that, I think, to people. But again, I don't care about any of that. I'm just evaluating his opinion. I'm leaving out anything else that he said or any other. Oh, did you hear he said this? So that invalidates this. There's a lot of that going on. Like, and it happens all the time with the draft. Oh, this reporter was wrong about who the Niners were going to take, and so everything else they say invalidated. Okay. Did you see Leaf's tweet about keeping Trey? Yes, that's what I was referring to. I'm pretty sure they said what they meant, You don't need to reiterate and tippy toe and drop it on the audience softer. Just do you. This Han Solo gig sucks. LOL. I'm out. I'm pretty sure I don't know. Again, I don't know what that means, but he misses John. There's no softer. I think that a lot of people took what he said because of some of the dramatics as being dramatic. Like, this is he is acting on a TV show. I don't think that's what he was doing. Pete, Trey is nothing but a distraction at this point. Hey, at least nobody's paying too much attention or putting too much pressure on our other guys. Kyle Shanahan asked about the backup quarterback competition, said yesterday they're battling for the 2 spot. So until he announces that Trey Lance isn't his number 2 quarterback, then this goes on. Can it ever be justified to bet 3 one-round picks on 1 QB given the high bust rate? It's results. If there's 2 things, right? The process, like, you better believe in the player. That doesn't seem like that's what happened, right? It seems like the Niners traded up before they even knew. I mean, they've kind of said that, like, it gave us a chance to evaluate. So that's bad process. And you better be right. Yeah, I mean, you are taking a major risk. But I think the counter, if you're in the room arguing with people, they'd say, look, man, if we don't do this, and this is kind of what they did, then we're never going to get that guy. And we need that guy to win a championship, which, you could argue, is that an indictment of whoever else the Niners get? Like, if we think we need that type of guy and we're willing to do this because we think that's what it takes to win a championship, and then ultimately that guy doesn't work out, and we go back to a guy who doesn't have that guy's physical traits, are we settling? Yeah, but again, there's only so many of these guys to get. You can't just manufacture one. Yellow Spy. Shady can be an asshole, but he's not afraid to say what he thinks. He ain't wrong. Astro. Trey fans can't wait to run Jimmy out of town. Then he went down in game 2. Jimmy was much needed. Hope Brock fans don't make that mistake. Yeah, or maybe some people are just not Brock, Jimmy, Trey fans. Just, you want the best quarterback. And, with Jimmy, his injury history was significant. Like, if he was your employee, eventually you'd go, I mean, probably be some employee protections that would prevent you from doing this, but you'd go, we need somebody who isn't going to call out sick. Now, Jimmy's not an unreliable human. He wasn't calling out sick, but he was getting hurt a lot. And it was kind of the same thing. All right. There we go. Got to run off to somebody who's not subscribe because we lost that other guy. And we can't make this a net negative today. That'd be an L on the day. So, if you're not subscribe to the channel, hit that like. Be back this afternoon with unemotional practice grading. And I'll tell you what's happened in practice the last 5 days. Okay, here we go. Have a great day if you're watching this live. If you are not live, hope you're having a good day. Whatever you're doing, putting something off, diving in. Oh, Tito's, handmade vodka. Enjoy your Tito's. We appreciate it. There's not Tito's in this, but I got a text yesterday, post-show from our boy Cam Inman, who was listening. And he's a big 3 olives, I think he said in his martini, which seems like a lot, but he likes a meal mixed with his drink when he sidles up to the bar. But Tito's, however you like it, enjoy. Crafted to be savored responsibly, and tag us in photos if you enjoy some Tito's. All right, be back later today, everybody. Later.